I've never really thought about it before, but I don't know exactly how you're supposed to pronounce the name of this game. The vague memories that I have of this game are that it was actually pretty good. But unfortunately, it doesn't work anymore. And it hasn't worked for a long time. So I'm going to cheat a little bit and I'm going to load up a disk image on my Amstrad with a floppy disk drive emulator. So even though this is a bit of a thin big box, it is just a cassette tape. Like a lot of computer games. I'm going to be using my Amstrad 6128 Plus, so it is still technically real hardware, and it's a real copy of a real game that I own, but I'm just going to be loading the game via a little flash drive. This music seems to be the music that plays in-game in the arcade original. They've put this at the end of the loading screen, so the game's finished loading. It's playing the music now, but I think it just erases all of this to save memory. It's a nice colourful loading screen, but it's not the greatest picture in the world. It's a little bit crude. But then sometimes these loading screens were drawn by, like school kids. So this is actually the main title screen. Because it's a computer game, it's a bit crude. You do have to choose your controls before you start, but I've skipped all that. I've played Commando a bit more recently than this. This is very smooth. It's a little bit slow paced, but it's actually really, really smooth. Perhaps it's a bit more methodical than Commando, which is all out action. It's a shame that there's no music in game, actually. Some of these guys seem to be a bit disinterested. Why don't you shoot me? I'm right there. I did take a look at the arcade version of this before I started doing this narration, and typically the screen is absolutely filled up with bullets. It's like a bullet hell shoot 'em up, but you're controlling a little guy instead of a spaceship. So now I've had a little bit of a practice, then I'll play this properly now. This is good. I was surprised by this, because I thought it was going to be one of those games that you sort of have rose-tinted glasses for. But this is just as I remember it, actually. Didn't really play it an awful lot, but I think that might have just been because it stopped working at some point. But I definitely remember you could walk in the water and you could jump in a tank and run over people. There's all sorts of power-ups and stuff. This does support 2-player co-op. It would have been really nice to play 2-player co-op, but getting someone that's willing to play an old game like this with me is not easy. There's a tank, if I can get to it. It's not like there's a million bullets on screen at any one time. But there's quite a narrow play field to move about on, so it is actually quite... It's actually quite hard. This is great. This is actually really, really good. I'm surprised by this. It's nice and colourful because it's obviously using the Amstrad palette, which is all extremely bright colours. Nice meaty explosions. There's loads and loads of enemies on screen to kill. They've sort of made it so the aspect ratio is about the same as the arcade original. You can actually change the resolution of an Amstrad game. It is actually surprisingly flexible. So you can go into the border at the top and bottom if you really wanted to. There's another tank there. Get back in this one then. I'm surprised at how smooth it is. Normally you'd get a game that is fairly smooth, but it still moves in chunks. Oh, I think I got killed by my own grenade there. Alright, there we go. Alright, well that's a look at Ikari Warriors. And that's actually really good. The Amstrad was typically plagued by quite sloppy games because it was a bit of an afterthought when there was more popular computers to make games for. But I think this might be a unique version programmed from scratch. It's not exactly perfect or anything, but the actual gameplay part of it is really, really good. That's the end of the video.